The movie begins as we see a terrified young boy who has a peculiar birthmark on his face, running away from someone in the heavy snow. After a while, the boy falls on the slippery surface when someone starts throwing snow on him. Days later, the boy's distraught parents are interviewed about his disappearance. The case has become very popular in the town, while mom explains that he went out to play as usual, but then never returned. Following this, we are shown a montage of news reports, revealing that a large number of people have gone missing in the nearby mountains. Most of them have occurred in recent years, and it is believed that more than 100 people have suddenly vanished there. Despite great efforts by the police, their whereabouts are still unknown. The movie then cuts to the present day, where we see a group of 5 friends heading towards the mountains to have a fun time. The group includes 2 couples, Eric and Janik, and Mikal and Ingun, who have just started dating. The last member of the group is a single guy named Morton. He is so single that he regards his hand as his girlfriend. After a while, they arrive at their location, which is far away from the city. The group then wastes no time, and starts climbing up a large mountain. They chose this quiet place because they didn't want to wait in queues and ski among thousands of other people. Once at the summit, they are left absolutely speechless by the stunning view. After chatting for a while, they all start skiing down the mountain. For the first few minutes, they have a lot of fun as they show off their impressive skills and moves. However, disaster soon strikes. Morton loses his balance and ends up in an accident. The others rush to check on him, and realize that he has broken one of his legs. The friends quickly tie a cloth around it to stop the bleeding, and Janik also pushes the bone back inside its place. This will avert the danger for now, but Morton still requires first aid. Unfortunately, because of the bad weather and high altitude of the place, the mobile signals aren't working. Janik thinks it'll take too long to go back to the city to summon help, so they start looking around the place, until they spot a building in the distance. Morton is completely unable to walk at this point, so the group makes a sledge for him and carries him all the way to the shelter. Upon arriving at the location, they find that the building is much larger than expected. Eric tries to open the main gate, but it is locked. Believing that the building is abandoned, he climbs onto a window, shatters the glass, and gets in. He then opens the main gate, finally allowing everyone inside. The place looks like some kind of hotel, as it has a lot of keys hanging around. Nevertheless, it is completely run down and dirty, almost as if it's been deserted for a long time. The power is also out, so the group decides to treat Morton on their own. Janik orders her friends to light a fire and bring some alcohol, as she plans to straighten Morton's leg with the help of a splint. After a bit of searching around the house, Mikal manages to find several bottles of alcohol, while Janik gets some adhesive glue. Luckily, Ingun has some painkillers in her bag, so they can begin stitching Morton's wounds. Janik then carefully removes the bandages from his wound, cleans it, and applies glue on the edges. Now that Morton is out of danger, the group decides to spend the night there, and they plan on heading out early the next morning. Eric, Mikal and Ingun then decide to check out the place, while Janik stays with Morton. The 3 walk through the dark corridor, and notice several rooms on each side. They also notice that the emergency axe has been stolen from its place, but pay little attention to it. Soon after, they venture inside the basement, which turns out to be the generator room. Eric starts tampering with the controls, hoping he can get the power back on. Outside, as Morton and Janik are chatting, the main door suddenly opens. Janik quickly goes up to check, but she doesn't find anyone outside the door. On the other hand, Eric somehow manages to turn on the generator, and this causes the entire house to illuminate with lights, and even the music starts playing. Eric then happily goes to meet his girlfriend, while the couple, Ingun and Mikal, decide to fool around the place, where they smell something burnt. Upon further investigation, they arrive at a room, which appears to have caught fire in the past. Everything inside has been reduced to ashes, including the bed and furniture. Later, the entire group gathers in the living room to have some fun. They play music, drink alcohol and joke around with each other. Currently, Janik is going through the hotel's register, which has a lot of entries from the guests. Janik then finds a peculiar note written by one of the guests which says, "We know you'll find your boy." This turns out to be the last note written in the diary, and it dates back to 1975, almost 30 years ago. The group wonder if someone went missing, and Janek also finds a family picture, consisting of parents with their son, and it is of the same boy who we saw in the opening scene. After the party ends, Mikhail and Ingun retreat to one of the bedrooms to have some alone time. They cannot wait to have some fun. Janek and Eric also sleep in the same bed, but they decide to stay next to Morten so that they can check on him. On the other hand, Mikhail tries to get into Ingun's pants, but she stops him, saying she's not ready for it. This enrages our desperate boy, so he abandons the intimate session and claims that she was just playing with him all this time. Ingun tries to explain that she loves him a lot and just wants to know him better first, but he angrily storms off. Mikhail goes downstairs, and starts drinking booze to drown his sorrows. Now that she is alone, Ingun decides to take a shower, but when she turns on the tap,
Hello?
Someone passes by behind Ingun, and she goes out to inspect, believing that it is her boyfriend. Scared, she immediately gathers her belongings to go back to her friends, right when this happens. A mysterious person stabs her from behind. The poor girl screams for her at the top of her lungs, but the guys downstairs can't hear her due to the loud music. In a bloodied state, Ingun runs through the corridor, and almost reaches the living room where her boyfriend is currently drinking. Unfortunately, the killer arrives at the same time, and drags her away. That night, none of the friends go to check on her. Mikhail believes that she's angry about what he said earlier, so he decides to give her some time. In the morning, however, Mikhail realizes his mistake, and heads to her room with some breakfast. Mikhail knocks on the door and apologizes for his earlier words. But when she doesn't respond, he simply leaves the breakfast on the floor and leaves. Downstairs, Eric is dressed and ready to venture out to find help. Before leaving, he has a romantic conversation with Janek. After bidding goodbye to everyone, Eric leaves the house. The weather is still bad, but he is determined to find help for his friends. He then starts his journey amidst the brutal blizzard. But just when Eric reaches a bit further, he spots traces of blood on the snow. Panicked, he follows it, only to find the lifeless body of Ingun lying on the ground. Eric tries to revive her, but just then, the same mountain man from earlier strikes him from behind. On the other hand, the lights inside the house start flickering, so Janek and Mikhail head towards the basement. When Morten wakes up a while later, he finds no one around. He tries calling out to them, but there's no response. This worries him a bit, so he somehow gets up from the couch, and starts looking for them. Down in the basement, Mikhail and Janek are trying their best to fix the generator. While doing so, they accidentally stumble upon a hidden door, sealed by a log. The two open it, and casually venture inside, where they find a lot of items. They believe the stuff belongs to the owners of the hotel. As they venture deeper into the dark room, they find a room that seems to have been recently occupied. They also find clippings of newspaper articles, most of them are about the scar-faced boy from the first scene, and the headline reads "Tragedy Strikes Again." Another news article has the headline "The Hotel of Evil," and they learn that the hotel they are staying in was actually abandoned 3 decades ago. They wonder how the owners have such brand new items like caps and sunglasses. The duo also finds items like jewelry and car keys. Since no one would abandon such personal stuff, Mikhail and Janek finally realize that something is amiss. They immediately decide to get out of this place. But at first, Janek wants to speak with Ingun in private. However, as soon as she opens the door, she is completely taken aback to see blood splattered all over the floor. On the other hand, Morten goes to the kitchen, where he finds a jar of beans and tries to open it, but to no avail. When Mikhail arrives on the floor, he is startled by the scream of his friend, so he rushes towards the kitchen. But Morten becomes even more terrified when he sees blood flowing out of the door. He slowly goes inside, only to find Mikhail nonchalantly lying on the floor. Turns out he fell while trying to open the can of beans. Just then, Janek arrives there with a worried look on her face, and she simply says Ingun. Janek then takes them to the room, where Mikhail finds his girlfriend's necklace on the bloodied floor, which shatters him. As the three are making their way out, they suddenly hear a door slam. This prompts the group to hurry inside one of the rooms, and barricade it. At this point, Janek explains the situation to Morton, and she proposes that they wait for her boyfriend to arrive with help, but Mikhail thinks it's a bad idea. He is certain that they won't make it alive for long. With every passing minute, Mikhail becomes increasingly paranoid, and when he can't take it any longer, he decides to venture out and find his girlfriend. The others try to stop him, but Mikhail has already made up his mind. He then slowly gets out of the room, and heads downstairs. Somewhere deep within his heart, he hopes that she is still alive. Upon reaching downstairs, he grabs a sharp weapon, and then goes room to room to check for Ingun. He makes a lot of noise during the search. At one point, he is suddenly attacked by the towering mountain man, but he manages to somehow dodge it. Mikhail hurries out of the main door, but he knows he won't make it far. When the killer arrives at the door, he finds no one in sight. Turns out Mikhail is hiding above the roof, and he patiently waits for the mountain man to leave. Later, he hurries back to his friends and explains that he just saw a massive man wielding an enormous axe. After the pounding stop, Mikhail urges Janek to leave with him while they have the chance. He believes that Morton is just dead weight, so they should abandon him, but Janek claims there must be another way. Mikhail responds by saying there's no other way, and he climbs out of the window, and rushes to a nearby shed, hoping to get some important supplies. But his luck runs out when he sets foot on a bear trap, and the sound of his screams alert his friends. After getting rid of the trap, Mikhail quickly gets inside the shed, and sees the mountain man approaching. He tries to hide, but unfortunately, the killer manages to find him. Then, right in front of his friends, Mikhail's neck is smashed, causing him to die on the spot. Now that Janek and Morton have seen how deadly the killer is, they decide to escape. She helps him out of the room, and they temporarily hide inside a store. But since they are sitting ducks at this point, Janek decides to search for something useful. She reluctantly leaves her injured friend in the room, promising to come back soon. In the next scene, Janek goes to the same shed where Mikhail was killed earlier. After searching around for a bit, she manages to find a large sled, but it is too heavy to move. Here her attention is suddenly caught by something. It turns out to be a freaking shotgun, which probably belongs to the mountain man. Janek notices that it is functional, and she manages to find a bullet, and this gives her the confidence to return back to the hotel. After she regroups with Morton, she shares her plan to shoot the mountain man dead. She knows that she will only have one chance at it, but it will be their best chance. The two then proceed towards the basement, where Janek believes the killer is currently at. She hides Morton in the darkness, and switches off the generator, before venturing inside the secret room alone. When she reaches a bit further, someone suddenly catches her leg, causing her to freak out. It turns out to be her boyfriend, Eric, who is still alive. Janek is glad to see him, but when she realizes that he cannot walk, she decides to deal with the threat first. Following this, they hear the sound of the killer's footsteps approaching. He soon arrives with a lantern in hand, and Janek prepares to shoot him. But before she can do so, he cleverly turns off the lights, plunging the place into darkness. The two then gather, and Morton urges Janek to leave immediately, but she refuses because her boyfriend is still alive. Shortly after, he shows up again, and Janek fires her only shot, but the shot misses as they notice the killer is using Eric as a shield. The mountain man eliminates Eric as well, bringing the death count to 3. Now that they are cornered, Morton bravely takes the shotgun from Janek and instructs her to run away. He will try to stall the killer for as long as he can, and Janek runs away from the room, leaving her friend to die. Soon after she departs, the mountain man launches an attack on Morton, killing him instantly. Janek then rushes outside the house, and puts on her skis. She tries running through the thick layer of snow amidst the darkness, but the mountain man easily catches up to her and knocks her out. When she regains consciousness, she finds herself on a sled, with the rest of her deceased friends. The killer is dragging them towards somewhere to dispose of them, and he is unaware that Janek is still alive. Soon after, he brings them to a deep crevasse, and starts tossing the bodies one after another. While he's distracted, Janek manages to find a razor blade in one of her friend's pockets. When the mountain man comes for her, she stabs him in the chest, and runs to get his pickaxe, but the killer easily thwarts her attempt. Amidst the struggle, she reaches the edge of the crevasse, and it appears that she's going to fall into it. But then, Janek impulsively removes the man's glasses from his face, causing him to be blinded for a moment, and we also catch a glimpse of his face. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Janek grabs his pickaxe, and impales him through the chest. The mountain man is fatally wounded by this. During his free fall, he has flashbacks of his childhood, when he was chased through the snow. In a shocking turn of events, it is revealed that the people chasing him were none other than his own parents. Probably this is the reason why he turned into such a ruthless monster. His body now lies with the 4 friends he murdered in cold blood, and this is where the movie ends.